a quick little video on things to avoid. These are just common things I see on a lot of people's artwork, kind of quarter after quarter. And these are just things that you should avoid. These are things that I will, uh, I will knock you off points if I see these. So I just kind of want to go over them so we're all on the same page here. So the first thing is the star shape. The star shape there, okay? I do not want to see this star shape. And the star shape I'm talking about is this shape right here. This is a stock star that comes here. And it's just a boring, uninteresting shape. And it's really generic. And it's just not that interesting. So all you would have to do is just take the time and use the pen tool. Kind of design your own star shape that's a lot more interesting. So if you want one that's like way more pointy and angular, you can do that. Maybe you want one that has like slightly rounded points to it. You can do that. But just take the time. It won't take you that long to design a star shape. So you can design it in your sketchbook, on your workup sketch, trace over it that way. So just take the time. Maybe you want one with tons of points. But if you just use that star shape, it just shows me that you are you don't have control of the pen tool and that you're not taking the time to design an interesting shape. And everyone uses that, or a lot of people oftentimes use that shape. So just think of one, what will work better with your moods, what will work better with your given composition. And so avoid this stock star shape. Okay. The other thing is the overuse of gradients. So some people, I do have a tutorial later on towards the end of the quarter where I go over how to use gradients. But I've seen some people use gradients already, but do not overuse them. You can use it on maybe one shape max. Okay, maybe one shape. Okay, here this is a composition I've used for examples before, but I threw gradients on all these shapes. Gradients just kind of look like very amateur, very student work. It doesn't look very professional. Even though I know you guys are students, but I want you to be aiming and trying to develop work that's better than that. So if you just take off the gradients, you can see it becomes, I'm just undoing because I changed these all to gradients. So there, now it is much more interesting without those gradients on there. So just standard flat shapes. If you wanted a gradient, maybe maybe on like the background shape, maybe, okay? Might be a place to put that. But again, they're kind of hard to control. I do have a tutorial on how to use them later on. But I would just avoid it and maybe just on one shape. But if you overuse the gradients, it's kind of just distracting, and like having a gradient actually creates a lot of value contrast, and like I don't want to draw attention to this shape up here because we have black all the way to pure white on one shape. So don't overuse gradients. Okay, the other thing, stick people. I see so many of these people in your composition, okay? It's fine to do a simplified person. But just make it more interesting. Again, it's just kind of a lazy thing. What I say is try and make them into shape people. So rather than just using lines here, let's use shapes for the person. And again, it just shows that you're, kind of uninterested in what you're designing. So that's already a little better. And then you can take it a few steps more. Just add in some things that make it a more interesting shape. So all it takes is a little something like that. And it's not like that's harder to draw. It just is that little bit of extra step there to make that more interesting. So again, I have a stick person here. So just avoid using this. Delete these. What I would do is just use the pen tool. Well, first I would design a better, type of person in my workup sketch, and then just use that pen tool to create a more interesting shape. So it's easier to design these sorts of shapes when you're working your sketchbook, like on that workup sketch. But now, so this person, or this weird little silhouette shape thing I'm doing, it's going to be a lot more interesting and not any harder for you guys to draw or create. Okay, so avoid those stick people. And then, it's a really easy way to make that shape more interesting by just throwing like a hat on this person. Okay, so already you can see this person down here, really not that much harder to create or even that much more time to create, but it's going to be a lot more interesting of a silhouette. Okay, so avoid the use of stick people. Okay, boring shapes. You want to avoid boring shapes and you want to get accurate shapes. So boring shapes good, accurate shapes, or boring shapes bad, accurate shapes good. So what do I mean by that? I have seen this sailboat. I don't know why everyone seems to draw this sailboat the exact same way. Something like this. Really weird. Like some of you guys might have done it. But this isn't really what a sailboat looks like. Okay? It looks like what a little kid might do if they haven't taken any art lessons or have any background in drawing, but you guys are in art class and you're practicing this, so I expect to see a little bit better than this. So all you have to do to get a more interesting shape, if you can't come up with a shape in your head, just grab a photo. So does this shape here look like that sailboat? Kind of, maybe, a little bit, but no. All you have to do is then just look at this. Oh, I'll just use this shape for the bottom part, the whole of the sailboat. Look at now. There's a more interesting shape for the whole of the sailboat. Okay. And then we got the mast here, and then these big triangular shapes for sails. So now this is going to be a much more interesting shape. So there we go. So that's going to be a lot more interesting there than this weird boat thing. Same thing goes for houses. I see these a lot. Our standard, that house. I've used that house before in sketches and things like that. So maybe this shape would work for your thumbnail sketch. Then when you go on to that workup, how can you make this a more interesting shape? Well, you can throw a little chimney on there. Maybe you just make the roof a little taller. You just play around with proportions. Play around with adding different things on there. And again, yeah, so maybe you have a flatter roof for that with a chimney up top. You have, you can just Google it too and find some better shapes. Small house. Images. So now we can find some better silhouette shapes. Same way we did with that. Oh, that one looks pretty interesting. Same way we did with the sailboat, okay? But so just avoid those generic shapes and boring shapes and try and make them more accurate. The same thing kind of goes for that stick person, okay? So if you use these things, I will kind of knock off points there. And to get the best grade you can, I want to see you avoid those things and just go a little bit further with the shapes you're designing and how you're using the tools in Illustrator.